The Galactic Military Academy's training grounds fell silent as the cadets watched the scene unfold before them. What had begun as a routine xenobiology demonstration had spiraled into something none of them had expected. And all eyes were now fixed on the human instructor standing in the center of the containment field. Lieutenant Rena Hale had been with the Academy for only 3 standard cycles, but she'd already earned a reputation among the cadets. The humans were still relatively new to the Galactic Coalition, their species having achieved faster-than-light travel a mere 2 decades ago. Most Coalition species viewed them with a mixture of curiosity and caution. They were soft-bodied, lacking natural armor or venomous defenses. Their homeworld was a death trap of extreme weather, predatory megafauna, and diseases that would have wiped out most civilizations before they learned to control fire. Yet somehow, impossibly, humans had not only survived but thrived. The demonstration had been simple enough. Commander Thexlar, a veteran Crovaxi warrior with scales like living armor, had brought a juvenile Raxthor from the Academy's Xenobiology wing. The Raxthor were apex predators from Sigma Draconis IV, standing nearly 3 meters tall at adulthood, with razor-sharp claws and a bite force that could shear through starship hull plating. Even the cubs were dangerous, their instincts honed by millions of years of evolution on one of the galaxy's most hostile worlds. The cub, designated Jortek by the handlers, had been sedated for transport, or so they thought. When Jortek suddenly lurched awake in the middle of the demonstration, the training grounds erupted into chaos. Cadets from a dozen different species scattered, their various forms of panic-driven locomotion, creating a cacophony of screeches, clicks, and bellowed warnings. Commander Thexlar reached for his neural stunner, but the cub was already moving, its predatory instincts locked onto the nearest source of motion, Lieutenant Rena Hale. The human woman stood her ground as 200 kilograms of muscle, claws, and teeth charged directly at her. The cadets who hadn't fled watched in horror, certain they were about to witness their first training fatality. The Raxthor cub's eyes were wild, its pupils dilated with fear and aggression. Its claws tore gouges in the reinforced flooring with each bounding stride. Then Rena did something that defied all logic, all tactical training, and all survival instinct, programmed into every sentient species in the known galaxy. She squatted down, spread her arms wide, and yelled at the top of her lungs. "Come here, little monster!" Her voice carried across the training grounds, not with fear or aggression, but with something the alien cadets couldn't quite identify. The Raxthor cub, now mere meters away, faltered in its charge. Its momentum carried it forward, but confusion flickered across its alien features. Then Jortek crashed into Rena's arms. The impact should have killed her. Even a juvenile Raxthor possessed enough kinetic force to break bones, tear flesh, and end a human life in seconds. But instead of attacking, instead of biting or clawing, the cub nuzzled into her embrace. Rena wrapped her arms around the creature's muscled neck, her fingers finding the softer fur beneath its coarse outer coat. She made soft, rhythmic sounds, a strange human vocalization that seemed to resonate with something primal in the cub's consciousness. Jortek's panicked breathing began to slow, its claws retracted slightly. The rigid tension in its body melted away as Rena continued her gentle sounds and movements. "It's okay, buddy," she murmured, loud enough for her translator to pick up. "You're safe." "You're just scared, aren't you?" "Yeah, I know. New place, new sounds, new smells. It's overwhelming. But you're okay now." The Crovaxi commander stood frozen, his neural stunner still raised, unable to process what he was witnessing. Around the perimeter of the training ground, cadets slowly emerged from their hiding spots, their various ocular organs wide with disbelief. A Tharnassian cadet, her crystalline body structure reflecting the overhead lights in prismatic patterns, whispered to her partner, "What is she doing? Why hasn't it torn her apart?" Her partner, a methane-breathing Velcour in an environmental suit, could only manage a confused gurgle through his translator. Rena continued working with the cub, her movements slow and deliberate. She scratched behind what might have been Jortek's ears, found the spots where his armor plating met softer tissue, and maintained constant vocal contact. The Raxthor's breathing had normalized entirely now, and to the shock of every observer, The deadly predator had begun making a sound remarkably similar to what humans called purring. "On my world," Rena said, not looking up from Jortek but speaking loud enough for the cadets to hear. "We have a saying. There's no such thing as a bad dog, only bad owners. I know Jortek isn't a dog, but the principle holds. He's not a monster. He's a scared kid in an unfamiliar situation, acting on instinct." She finally looked up at Commander Thexlar, her brown eyes meeting his vertical slitted ones. "Permission to return the cub to his enclosure, sir? I think he could use some quiet time and maybe a snack." The Krovaxi commander slowly lowered his weapon. In his 4 decades of military service, across countless worlds and innumerable combat situations, he had never been more thoroughly surprised. "Permission granted, Lieutenant. Yes, proceed." As Rena stood, Jortek remained close to her side, following her like an oversized puppy as she walked him back toward the xenobiology wing. The cadets parted before them, their expressions ranging from awe to utter bafflement. A human cadet, one of only 3 in the current class, grinned and whispered to his Zorathian squadmate, "That's the most human thing I've ever seen." "I do not understand," the Zorathian replied, his translator struggling with his species' complex harmonic language. "She should be dead. All tactical protocols indicate she should be dead. How did she know the predator would not attack?" The human cadet shrugged. "She probably didn't. But humans have been living with predators on Earth for our entire existence. Wolves became dogs. Big cats became house cats. We've got this weird instinct to look at dangerous animals and think, but what if I could pet it? Most species run from danger. We try to befriend it." As Rena disappeared into the xenobiology wing with Jortek trotting contentedly beside her, Commander Thexlar addressed the assembled cadets. His voice carried the weight of reluctant revelation. "Let this be a lesson to all of you," he said. "The humans may seem weak by conventional standards. They lack natural weapons, armor, or enhanced senses, but they possess something perhaps more dangerous: an absolute fearlessness in the face of the unknown, and an inexplicable ability to form bonds where none should exist. Remember this when you serve alongside them in the field." In the days that followed, the story of Lieutenant Rena Hale and the Raxthor cub spread throughout the academy and beyond. It became another entry in the growing collection of tales about humanity. Those strange, soft-skinned creatures who had looked at the galaxy's most dangerous apex predator and thought, "I bet I could give that a hug." Jortek never forgot his encounter with the human, and when cadets passed by his enclosure in the weeks after, they sometimes saw Lieutenant Hale sitting inside, the massive cub's head resting contentedly in her lap as she scratched behind his ears and called him her little monster.